episodes.
Oh.
Hello and welcome to Strategic Gaming. My name is Mac Taylor. With me today, a guy who took a little bit of a break from the railroad business today. Didn't do as much railroading as he normally would do. It's Chris Wilkerson. How's it going, Chris?
It's great. I mean, like you said, I had a short day today. I got to work in the shop. It was a lot easier. I have a lot more energy, even though my feet still hurt. But let's get this podcast rocking.
And then we have the person who's always eating when she logs into the podcast chat. It's Jada Lewis. How's it going, Jada?
I literally get home from work and make dinner and then sign in. Okay? It's dinner time when we do this podcast. Excuse me.
We should play a game every week called what did Jada eat for dinner while she was in the chat with me.
If you guess macaroni and cheese, you'll be right 50% of the time because macaroni and cheese is 50% of my diet. It's not healthy.
It's good.
It's tasty. That's what I had for lunch today. Anyway.
All right, so we only got one episode to talk about, so this could be a relatively short podcast, but we got to get to those power rankings, which I really liked last week. I didn't know how I was going to like doing power rankings. It does bring up some interesting conversation. So anyway, right into the episode. Mike decides he wants to be the real hunter of this tribe. So he makes a spear and takes their one and only knife, and he's going to use that to hunt pigs. And everybody else is quite annoyed by this. Thoughts on this, Jada?
Yeah. I guess it makes, wanting to feed them is, a noble concept. But, you kept hearing everybody say, we haven't even seen any pigs. So, this just reminds me of, Super Bowl 2000.
Super Spear 2000. Scoopin' Spear 2000. Chris.
Yeah, it's a good idea, but he executes it poorly, as we've seen before from the Scoop Meister. He really doesn't have a grip right now. He wants to, but the way he's trying too hard, it's coming off horrible to the group. They're starting to not like him as much, and it could lead to his outs from the show. But if he goes out and he actually kills anything, they'll love him. I don't know why he had to say he was going to get a pig specifically. I don't know where a pig is in Australia, and nobody said they've seen one. You could have just said you were going out to hunt. You didn't have to say for pigs.
Yeah, that was very specific. I didn't even think about it that way. He could have just been like, hey, guys, I found this thing. I killed this. But no, now he has to bring back a pig. Also, Varner says his confession, Scoopin's an idiot. Show me a pig and I'll change my mind. But seriously, I think this guy's dumb. Then back on the Ogakor side of things, Tina is really struggling with the hunger aspect. She said she never thought she would miss a bag of Doritos so much.
Mood.
Thoughts on how the hunger plays into this game, Jada?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, if you don't eat, you're not getting nutrition, and you're not going to be able to keep up your energy and keep up your health and keep up your motivation, and that's just going to wear you down. So, I mean, obviously, eating good food is pretty important for this game.
Chris?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Jada. I mean, health, hygiene, and nutrition, they're all essential in life, and they're very essential in Survivor. I mean, it's how life works, it's how Survivor works. You really have to eat well, and I think her just sitting there thinking of the foods that she can't have isn't really healthy to her mental well-being as well as her physical well-being, because just thinking of food will make you hungry, and she has to occupy herself. I mean, sometimes you really can't eat and you just think you're hungry. You have to put in a little physical effort, and it kind of drains that idea of food from your head, but you still do need to eat when the time is right and eat in any quantities you need, but just provide for your body.
Yeah, I agree, but I think it's one of these things like you have to know your limits, like your own limit. And especially if you're gonna play a game like Survivor, these are things you should be thinking about before you've even gotten on the plane to go to the island. Like you should be thinking like, okay, how much am I eating right now? Can I cut down what I'm eating right now just to try to get used to this kind of thing? Like like she said she wants Doritos and things. Like she's just thinking of things she wants to eat. And like you said, it's gonna make things worse. Like it's gonna overwhelm her thought process and make it even like she needs to focus on something else, find a distraction, and really just try to kind of take herself to the limit that she could take herself. So for the upcoming reward challenge, it's gonna be like a test of strength for somebody. And everyone in Ogacore is like, well, yeah, that's Colby. We're gonna send Colby to do that. And Colby's like, I'd be totally cool with this if it was like, yeah, Colby, if you fail this challenge, like it's okay. Like, we still got you. He's like, but I have a feeling if I don't win this, I'm gonna be looked at as the next to go home. Uh, thoughts on Colby's thoughts, Jada?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's wrong because when you put all this pressure on someone to win a challenge and they don't win, then you're just going to be super disappointed because then you're like, well, you're the strongest one and you lost the battle of strength. Like, you're not worth it here. And so I think he's very right that people would just be very cutthroat and turn around and vote him off. So I think it's good that he's thinking about that.
Chris?
Yeah, I completely agree. Him thinking of that is exactly right. I mean, if you fail a competition, your tribe's not going to want you. And I think it is pretty ironic that right after Ogakor votes out their strongest player, there's a strength competition.
I mean, maybe it's debatable between Kel and Colby of who's strong, like physically stronger. But as far as like an overall training per like this immunity challenge coming up, I think would Kel would have been very good at.
At least
So
better than Michael.
so anyway, uh, at the uh, at the reward challenge, it's the rest of the tribe are gonna be running through this balance being trying to get buckets of water onto the other tribe's strongest member. Ogakor picks Colby and Kucha. They're gonna have Scoop and do this. And then at the end, when all the buckets are there, it's whoever hangs on the longest. And they said that total with all these buckets, this weighs 400 pounds. That's a lot, like to hold on your shoulders. Um, and you can tell both guys are struggling for a while. Like they're shaking, they're moving, then all of a sudden, Scoopin's pole snaps in half. The pole could not hold the weight. And so Colby drops because he's like, well, yeah, that's it. Like, I win. And uh Jeff is like, yeah, no, like his thing broke. He didn't quit. So we're gonna have a race. Like whoever gets the most buckets in this time period on someone else, they win. And the race is on, and ultimately Ogakor wins reward again, getting fishing gear. Thoughts on this challenge and the results, Jada?
Yeah, I thought it was hilarious that they lasted so long and then like got out because the pole freaking broke. Like of all the things, like that's what happened. And so I thought that was pretty amusing. But um I'm makes sense to me because Colby like being like, oh, I guess I win then. Makes sense that Jeff was like, no, like this isn't fair, and so it makes sense that they did like another challenge. But I was pretty mad that um they ended up winning Colby's team just because I felt like Michael's thing literally broke over his back. Like that does not feel good. He was obviously carrying more weight if that broke and lasted that long. Like I think there should have been a different something, like a handicap or something. I don't know.
Chris, thoughts?
Um, yeah, the competition was actually, I thought, pretty interesting. But I do have that sporty aspect. I mean, I do like to watch weightlifting, but it's a really daunting challenge, and I don't even know how I would fare, let alone anybody else. I mean, this is tough. 400 pounds, especially with water, it's a whole different weight. It displaces easily, it shakes. So every time they shake, the water is moving, making it harder to hold it. And yet both of them do. And Scoopin's pole snaps. That is how it ended. His pole snapped. This guy is holding so much weight that his pole snapped. I felt it was right for Jeff to decide to do a different competition because Scoopin didn't drop his weight. The pole snapped. And Okafor winning, it wasn't that shocking to me. I mean, I thought they were going to win. I really thought Scoopin didn't stand a chance against Colby, but he held his own pretty well. But I, again, more irony, some more irony here. Right after Kel gets voted out, they get fishing gear.
Yeah, it really is like if they could have just won that immunity challenge, Kel would be in such a good spot right now. But he just couldn't do it. Yeah, I thought the decision to do another challenge was fair. I didn't think Scoopin was going to do as well as he did. He did surprise me with how well he was able to do this. And just overall, it's an interesting challenge. And like Chris said, the water, it's not an even. It's not like when you're lifting weights. Like it's not a solid one thing. There's multiple things moving and displacing, and that had to be ungodly uncomfortable. So, that was an interesting challenge. Okafor, it's their second reward. So like they're doing good in the reward side of these. So back at their camp, Jerry, she ends up catching fish, and instead of being like, "Yeah, I caught fish. I feel good about myself," she's like, "I caught fish. Fuck you, Keith. Yeah, said there weren't any fish out here. Boom, I did it." And Keith's like, "Oh yeah, now then you come back. I guess you want me to cook the fish," and then he cooks the fish. And we get Amber, like she has a confessional. She says a couple of things in this episode. Like when she popped up, I was like, "Hey, there she is." Talking about how but Keith and Jerry are just constantly at each other. But then she also Keith, he's like, "Yeah, if I cook this fish, like I'm gonna be in a better spot." And almost everybody says, like, "Yeah, no, this still doesn't change anything. It was good fish, but he's just a chef. That's not that useful." Mitchell says anybody can really cook anything, so we don't really need him as much as he thinks. Thoughts on all of this, Jada?
Yeah, so it's good that they're finally getting fish and protein, but this weird like showdown between Keith and Jerry is like something I'm pretty ready for it to end. Like they're talking about how they don't know like how important having a chef really is when the food that you're getting is so rudimentary. But I also think that Jerry just does nothing but I said this last episode too. She just stirs the pot and causes issues. So I don't. I don't know if I agree with some of the things that are that she's saying and that she's stirring around. So I don't know. I lost my train of thought.
Chris, thoughts?
Yeah, I hate every second of Keith and Jerry on the show, and I even think I would like Keith if Jerry was not here, or I might like Jerry if Keith was not there. But they're at each other's throats constantly, and it's just back and forth. I really hate this, and I feel like we're getting another version of the bitch and the bully.
Hmm.
Ah, I didn't even think of it like that. It always comes back to Big Brother 2, doesn't it?
It's the OG, you know.
This started it all for us. Um, yeah, really, a chef is not much of use on a game like Survivor. Now, like, and it's funny that you made the comparison because Nicole was a chef,
Mm.
on TV too. But Nicole, like, she had the means to make food, like good food, like they were in a house. Whereas out here, he's got rice and whatever they can kill. Like, it's not the best thing to have the skill for. Also, Jerry, she's just constantly. If she can just say something to piss somebody off, she'll say it just to entertain herself. Like Jerry is a very big villain here. Um, but I'm excited to see this moving forward. But back on the Kucha side of things, Kimmy, she's taking care of all the water, like constantly, all day long. She's getting the water, boiling the water so they can drink it. She feels isolated. She feels like if they lose, she's probably going to be the one that goes, and she's trying to change it, but she doesn't feel like she's made any connections whatsoever. To the point where Alicia's like, yeah, Kimmy is very expendable. At any point, I can cut her and feel just fine about it. Thoughts about Kimmy and her situation, Jada?
I don't really like Kimmy. She annoys me.
Well, all right. Thoughts on it, Chris?
Yeah, I kind of wish Kimmy would get more time with the group, but she does have to get the water, and it's really not a pretty job. I mean, nobody really thinks about that. It's not going to keep you safe, and I don't know why she thinks it would, but she's got to fight her way back into this tribe, and if she doesn't, she could be gone.
Yeah, I feel like instead of doing all this work, I mean, it's appreciated by like Roger, but that's not going to help you. You need to start having conversations with people about, you know, what you should be up to their games. Make it seem like you're helping them, not they're helping you. And you can find yourself a chance to stay in the game. But instead, she's just kind of isolating herself even more by constantly leaving to get water. But then also, Elizabeth and Roger have really bonded over this time. Like Roger is like kind of like her dad figure here, where he like he's like you're a really good girl, and he finds this little heart rock, like a heart shaped rock, and he gives it to her. He's like, give this to your boyfriend when you go back home, and tell him it's something special. Like, thoughts on the Elizabeth Roger friendship? Chris, you first.
Yeah, I thought it was a really nice moment, and I feel like Roger is just, I mean, he's Mr. Nice Guy. Every time you see him on the show, something beautiful is happening. And him forming a friendship like this and becoming a sort of father figure to her, I mean, it's great television, and I don't even think it was planned. I mean, sometimes people just get along, and I guess it's happening here, and I kind of like it.
Jada, thoughts?
Yeah, I think what we've seen from Roger is that he gives us a lot of really good, like, heartwarming moments. So the first couple episodes, there was the stuff with the Bible and the notes that he had from his like son-in-law, and that was like a really sweet moment. And now he has these sweet moments with Elizabeth, and it's just nice to see that there are people who are getting along and just being very kind to one another, especially when everybody else in the show is being so cutthroat. So it was kind of like a moment of relief where it was like, oh, humanity.
Huh. We're not all terrible. um, then back at the Ogre Core, Marilyn and Tina are bonding a lot. Marilyn says that Tina is a wonderful soul, and we also hear Marilyn sing. She got a voice. I don't know what she was singing, but I liked it. I liked the pitch. And then Marilyn's like on the flip, she's like, I don't like Jerry. I don't like Jerry at all. Uh, Also on the Ogre Core side, Colby and Jerry are getting really close. And like she's rubbing his back and he's like, cake or ice cream or like, giving her all these things to choose from. And Keith's like, this is bad. This is really bad. He's like, because Jerry's going to sink her claws into Colby, put the veil over his eyes, and I'm going to be in a big amount of trouble if that guy's coming after. He's like, I know she has she may be attracted to him, but there's ulterior motives here. And Jerry, it cuts to her confessional, and she's like, yeah, I like Colby. I have a connection to Colby, but I will vote him out in a second if it means getting further in this game. Thoughts on all of this, the Tina Marilyn thing, and then the Jerry Colby thing, and then Keith knowing about the Jerry Colby thing. Jada.
So Tina and Marilyn is just a really cute friendship. Obviously, we've seen the end of the episodes. We know how that ends, and it's very sad. But the Tina Marilyn friendship is very sweet, and it, like I said, it's kind of like that heartwarming television that you see all these people being like cutthroat savages, and it's just kind of nice for them to not be. So I did appreciate that. And then moving on to Jerry and Colby, I don't like that Jerry is coming up on my number one man. She needs to chill out. And, if I actually thought that she was like a good person and wouldn't turn her back on him, then I would be like, yeah, sure, whatever. Like, that's fine. Like, be friends. But she's obviously not like she said it herself. She'll be cutthroat about it. She'll take him out. And so it's like, hold on, pop off, okay? And then moving on to Keith, who's like noticing all of this and seeing all of this, is I think it's just further proof at what a good player that Keith is. And you don't really think about it a lot, because when I think about him, I don't automatically think, oh man, like he's intuitive or whatever. But he is noticing things that are going on. It reminds me of almost Rich in a way, because Rich always kind of knew what was going on, but that's about where the comparison ends.
Chris, same questions to you.
Yeah, I thought the Tina and Marilyn friendship was awesome. I really like Marilyn singing. I feel like I might even add some of that into my game. Um, it was beautiful. I love to hear singing. I love music and I like to sing. It was a great moment and I'm glad it got started. Um, but moving on to Jerry and Colby, I feel Jerry has the right mindset here. And even though it's a horrible mindset, it's terrible to do that to somebody. But for the game of Survivor, it's the right mindset. And I just really hope for Colby's sake, he has the same mindset. Because if he doesn't, he could be out of the show really quickly.
Don't come at my mans, Jerry.
And then your thoughts on Keith and his commentary on the situation.
Yeah, I thought Keith's was spot on. He's playing every situation and he's thinking. And I think we finally get to see a little of the strategy behind Keith and maybe even see him trying to play the game better.
Yeah, my thoughts on the Tina and Marilyn thing. It like, and it's kind of like Jada says. It's nice to see like amidst all this gameplay and fighting that people actually get along. And Marilyn does like I think in life I would get along with Marilyn or I would get along with Tina. Especially Marilyn though, because she seems like such a nice person, like so genuinely nice. And Also, she had this big career as a cop and was like the first late like woman officer in her area and stuff. Like she has a great thing, a lot of conversations. I feel like you have with Marilyn. Then to the Jerry and Colby thing. I think it's great on Jerry's part to put a meat shield in front of her because obviously, if they're working together, someone's going to come after Colby before Jerry in most aspects. But I think Colby is kind of like wary about it. He's kind of like, I like her, but like I think she might be playing me a little bit. And if he can just try to read situations and as the game moves forward, understand what she's doing, I think he'll be okay. But if he does get a little love puppy and just falls head over heels for her and throws his game away for her, I'm gonna be upset.
I don't know because, and here's why I kind of disagree with where you're going. Which I mean, obviously, I would be upset by that. However, there was a confessional where Colby even said that he doesn't know if he can trust her. So I don't think he is going in like head first or anything like
No, I
that.
don't think so either. I'm just saying, like, if it were to be that, I would be upset because I like Colby a lot as a player, and I think he is pretty smart. And usually with these big meaty guys, like you don't see a lot of brain, but he does seem to think about the game, and that does mean something. On the Kucha side, we also get some more strategy talk as Varner and Alicia go off in the woods together, and they're talking about Nick's laying low, and he doesn't do a lot around camp, and we should probably take him out as soon as we possibly can. He's kind of an asset to us right now, being kind of a stronger guy. But the second we can cut him, we need to cut him. And Alicia's like, no doubt. I have no qualms about cutting him. And they're like, Elizabeth is guarding Roger. And Varner's like, yeah, like I tried to bring it up to her. And she's like, I'm not going to write Roger's name down. And Elizabeth in her confessional said, I will never write his name down on a piece of paper. I am never going against Roger. And Varner recognizes this and he's like, so we can't bring Elizabeth to work with us because she's just going to protect Roger. And that's not in our best interest for our game. And Alicia's like, yes, for sure. Like we need to be wary of those two. We need to be wary of, get Nick out of here and try to kind of pick up the pieces and move forward and kind of steamroll this thing. Especially Nick though. Like Varner has this thing, like he really wants to cut Nick. Thoughts on the strategy session between Varner and Alicia, Jada?
It's definitely showing me that they are more strategic players than I thought they would be. This is kind of like the first glimpse that we've seen of Alicia in a while, because I think we remember talking about this last episode where we think she might have had a confessional like during the hike, and then that was kind of like all that we saw from her. So it's nice to see them starting to do some strategy talk and to see kind of like who she is as a person now.
Chris?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think the strategy is great. I don't really like the execution. They're going after Nick. It's a smart plan. I mean, Nick has a brain, and if he can use his brain in the game, he could be a force in the Survivor season. But you don't know if he is going to yet. And I think taking aim at him early is a good idea, but he's on my team, so I don't want it to happen.
Yeah, I really do like that they're going off and making it seem like they're gathering things, and that's where they're having their strategy talk. So they're like, we can't just talk strategy at the camp. Like, we have to go away, but have a reason to go away so they're not wondering where we are. And this is where we're going to do our little, like, who are we taking now? Like, and, Alicia is the one who told Varner that Deb was trying to flip the vote on him. And I think that established some trust, and I think that's why Varner's like, I trust Alicia, and Alicia's like, I trust Varner because they work together on that Deb vote.
I keep forgetting about that too.
I really think that's like the key part of their alliance with each other. Then back at the camp, you see Nick has spent his days. He built a chair and a bench and a kitchen. Thoughts on all that, Jada?
I mean, it's nice that he's building things, I guess, but I mean, it's kind of like they said, the other tribe members said, like, it's like literally all he's doing. And then, like, once he does that, he just sits and he doesn't do anything else to help the tribe. And he doesn't, like, pick things up. He doesn't, like, listen when they ask him to, like, help out around things. And it's like, sure, like, build furniture. Like, they'll need places to sit, but, like, also they need you to help with the firewood and with the water and everything else. So, like, don't just focus everything on these like menial tasks that aren't as important as basic survival.
Chris?
Yeah, Nick is kind of reminding me of an old man right now. He's sitting around and whittling. He spends his time working with wood and does nothing else. And he can't listen to people when they talk. He has selective hearing, as the elderly call it, and he doesn't do anything. I've seen Nick do nothing but hold a torch and make some furniture. And the furniture did not look that great, although it is nice to have.
Yeah, like and this is really all we've seen of Nick. And if all I see of you is that you're trying to get out of work by making menial things, and that your tribe is generally very annoyed by you, and that even though you're an asset to them, they're still considering taking you out as soon as possible. That doesn't say a lot of good things about your game.
Mm-hmm.
And then it rains and it pours all night, so they
The
don't get a
old
lot.
man snores.
And they're tired and they're exhausted, and they get to go into the hardest immunity challenge of the season. They are tethered together, and they have to basically, you're only as fast as your slowest member. And on Kucha, that is Roger. Roger is constantly falling, and he can barely like keep running. And then on Ogakor, it's Mad Dog, it's Maryland. Like Colby is like throwing her over obstacles and like pushing her up things and like rolling, like he is dragging her through this competition. And it's a very close race, but in the end, Kucha, they win again, sending Ogakor for the second time to tribal council. Thoughts on this challenge, Jada?
Yeah, it was a really, really good challenge. I think it did genuinely look very, very
Hot.
yeah, it looks hard, it looks difficult, and I think in this situation I would be the Maryland.
Someone would be throwing you over obstacles.
Yep.
Chris, what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, this is really a competition for teamwork. And it's really an underlying tone in how survivors should work, but it can't work because of all the people who are trying to play strategy right now. And they're all trying to work a different game, and they can't just work together as one tribe. They have to work together as individuals. And it throws a wrench in the teamwork. So when a challenge like this happens, they can't really work together as well. And it throws hitches in their game. Like Roger keeps falling down, and Colby pretty much carries Maryland through this competition, and yet they still can't beat Kucha. But I mean, it's teamwork, and they can't get it accomplished because they're all trying to play each other.
Yeah, it's a hard challenge because, like I said, it just looks hot. Like they look exhausted. You know what I mean? Like Roger is like sweating profusely, and like that really does hinder you. Um. Then back at the camp, Jerry's like, we got an alliance. It's me, Mitchell, Colby, Tina, and Amber, and we're the five who are gonna dominate the Oga core, which only leaves Keith and Marilyn on the outs of that. And Keith goes up to Colby and he's like, we're voting Marilyn. He's like, well, You could do that. Or me and Marilyn are voting Mitchell because I feel like Maryland could come in use later. Mitchell, he just seems like a big sack of nothing. And Colby goes right to Mitchell. And he's like, hey, your name just got thrown out by Keith. And Mitchell's like, why? And he's like, I don't know. He just says that you're kind of useless and that we should probably keep Maryland. Thoughts on all this, Jada?
Um, what I find really funny this season is that I feel like in Borneo, when somebody was plotting against somebody else, nobody ever went straight up to the person and was like, hey, so and so is saying this about you and saying we should vote you out. But so far this season on Australia, this is the second time that somebody has been straight up like, oh, hey, so and so is putting your name in the ring to go out. And I think it's hilarious and kind of noble. And it's like they all want to be underhanded, but when it's like out of nowhere, they're like, no, we're not playing this game. Like, we could be underhanded, but not like this.
It has to be planned. We have to have a planned, underhanded agenda.
Exactly.
Chris, thoughts?
Yeah, I think Jada's right. We really didn't see this in Survivor Borneo, and it's almost like flashing back to BB2, where we saw a little bit of it, but not a lot because people are afraid to be completely honest. And you're seeing it a lot in Survivor Australia, and I like it.
Yeah, and I, I think this is good on Colby's part because he's like, this kind of cements my bond with Mitchell because if something comes up with Jerry later, I can be like, hey, Mitchell, I told you that Keith was coming after you, so we're good, right?
Mm.
I think Colby's thinking ahead with this one, but he also doesn't completely throw Keith under the bus, so that if Keith stays, he could be like, Keith, I votes weren't there, but I'll work with you now. At Tribal, Jeff's kind of asking, like, well, who are you close with? Who are you close with? Everybody beats around the bush except for Jerry, who says everybody in her alliance but Tina. She doesn't say Tina. And if I'm Tina, I'd been like, what the fuck's that all about? Like, clearly I'm the bottom of that five. Thoughts on her bold decision to not only stay her alliance but leave out one person.
Yeah, it doesn't really make sense. Like, for one hand, why would you start by calling out like almost everybody in your alliance? Because that's not sus. Like, Jesus, Jerry. And then the one person she doesn't name drop is Tina. And it's like you're gonna name drop everybody else except one person, and like you're already being sus by name dropping all of these people, but then you're just randomly leaving out Tina, which is just gonna make her mistrust you. Or maybe she'll trust you more, but the other people in your group will mistrust you. And so I just don't think that her doing this is going to work out well for her at all. I think it's putting a big old target on her back as someone who can't be trusted.
Chris, thoughts?
I mean, Jada kind of hit the nail on the head right there. It pretty spot on. I feel that Jerry is stupid. She does not deserve to be in Survivor for doing this. I mean, have you watched anything out of your own head? I mean, what goes on here? Who just comes out and says their entire alliance except for one person, and there's no reason not to say her name? I mean, if you're going to say everybody else, why leave out one person? And it does cause mistrust. Nobody can trust anyone. And I think Jerry might have just dug her own grave, and she could be on the outs now.
So they go to vote, and the votes come out 5-2. 2 votes for Mitchell, 5 votes for Marilyn. Marilyn sent home. And, in her goodbye message, she says, I like all these people. I had a great time. I was just so lucky to have been picked to be on Survivor, and this was so much. I cannot believe this was real, and that made me like Marilyn even more than I did already because like she could be a little because Tina, her closer people did not vote to keep her, and Amber, the person who she gave her Mad Dog hat, didn't vote to keep her, and she's like, I understand, it's okay. Like I'll see you guys when it's over, and I'm like, I have to give mad respect to
Mad
Marilyn for
Dog.
that.
Mad respect for
Mad,
Mad Dog.
mad respect for Mad Dog. Final thoughts on Marilyn, Jada.
Going in, I didn't know. I remember talking about this during the draft. I didn't know how much I would like her. I didn't know how much she would click with everybody else. And you know what? She did end up clicking with everybody else, and I did end up really liking her. And she still went home early, so it's kind of like put a whole spin onto like my whole thought process for even going in for this season and for my draft and for like how this is even going to turn out. Because if she got voted out this early and everybody likes her, I mean, I know she did awful in that challenge, but like it just feels like it just spun. I just did a 180.
Chris, final thoughts on Marilyn.
Yeah, I feel like Ogakor has gotten all of their eliminations wrong. You're eliminating all of the nice people who do stuff to make your lives better. I mean, Marilyn, in her own way, was trying to make people's lives better through her emotional connection between as many people as she touched on that show. I mean, she was a really nice person to get to know, and she had some really great moments on the show, and she's almost like the Roger for Ogakor, but she's not on Kucha, obviously, and she's not on the show, and it's sad. I mean, I really liked her, and I wish she could have stayed longer.
All right, guys, and with that, that ends the episode. But we are gonna do our power rankings. So obviously Marilyn was voted out, so all her numbers remain the same. I'm gonna go ahead and cross her out. Okay. Chris, we're gonna start with you again. We're gonna start with Jerry. Last time you gave Jerry a 7. Talk to me about Jerry and your new number.
Yeah, Jerry done goofed real good. You had one job, Jerry, and you failed. Like you had your entire tribe by the Gahonades, right by the Nats. You had them. You were running everything, and you just decide to tell everyone your entire tribe, your alliance, and pretty much how they're going to be eliminated from the show, and expect them to be fine with it. I don't think we will ever see this drastic of a change for me and number, but from 7 all the way down to 1, because Jerry don't know what she's doing.
A 1
Wow.
is gonna be given out to Jerry Manthe. All right, Jada,
Wow.
last time you gave Jerry a 3. You were the lowest on Jerry last time. Where do you fall this time and why?
Wow. I don't know how I could possibly follow that, but wow, I really only gave her a 3 last time, huh? I just don't like her. She gives me bad vibes. And then she went and I think kind of spoiled it for herself. I think I'm gonna drop her down just 1 point. I'm gonna give her a 2, but it's gonna be a low 2. Just because I don't feel comfortable giving somebody a 1 right now. Because sorry, Chris, but because I mean it's not like she's still providing. I think she put a big target on her back, but she's still doing things and she's still doing well in competition. So she's bringing something.
All right, well, off that, I gave her a 6 last time. I'm gonna drop down to a 5. My reason being, yes, she did goof. She goofed a lot with the exclusion of Tina and naming her whole alliance. But she's got Colby at least where I don't think he's going to vote her out next. She has Mitchell pretty much completely 100%. She has Amber completely 100%. And she's controlled. Like, she's pretty much the reason Kel went home. She made up the whole shit about the beef jerky. And she's pretty much the reason that this whole thing with Marilyn happened. So, she's dominated 2 votes and has the numbers. So I don't feel comfortable giving her a 1, but I will stay at a 5. She's neutral. Could go bad, could go good. All right, Chris, next up you have Tina. Telling me about Tina. Last time you ranked Tina 5. Where are you going?
Yeah, Tina is the wild card. She's kind of blending in right now. You guys know I've called her a wild card from day one. I really don't know what it is about Tina. I get a really strong vibe, and I don't know if it's positive or negative, but Tina is either going to do something great in this show or she's going to be a horrible player. But right now, she's not really, from what I see, playing too much of the game, but she's there and people do like her, although she didn't get name dropped for the Alliance, which is kind of scary. But I don't think she'll be the first one to go if they go right back to Tribal Council. So I'm going to give Tina a 4.
From 5 to 4. Jada, tell me about Tina. Last time you gave Tina a 5. Where are you going?
You know what, Tina, I think I agree with Chris. She is a wild card. You don't I don't really know ever like I agree with Chris on a lot of it. She gives out this vibe and you just don't know exactly what it is. And I don't know, just like Chris said again, for sure if it's a good thing or a bad thing. So I don't know if maybe she's just too good at playing this this character, if you will, of like the nice mom. The nice, she's older, she's nice, but I mean, if you looked at her, she is actually really strong. Like her bio is really good, and she's managing to stay like under the radar. And so I have to wonder how much of that is strategy and how much of that is just kind of how things are falling. So just because of all of that, I think I'm just going to keep her at a 5.
Keep her at the 5. I'm going to agree. I gave her a 4 last time. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to bump up to a 5 because I think she's neutral right now. She hasn't tanked her game and she's made some bonds, but she hasn't made any big moves other than being this alliance that she was left out of, being the name drop. I think Tina does have this air of mystery to her, and I'm really curious to see how that unfolds, where that pans out. Chris, we're gonna talk about Colby next. You had Colby at a 4 last time. Where are we going next?
Yeah, I don't want anybody to get the wrong idea of my ranking for Colby last week. I love Colby. He's probably one of my favorite people in Survivor right now. He's the goofy Texan, and he's showing it. And he really balled out in his strength competition. I mean, he held that weight and won it for his tribe. I really think his idea of joining Jerry in this weird kind of a relationship, but not. I mean, they just do stuff for each other. And I hope he's playing her as much as she's playing him, but I don't know if he is. So if he is, I want to give him a 6.
Up to a 6 for Colby. Jada, last time you gave Colby a 6. Where are you going from here?
Colby is my number 1. I love him. I think that he is a really, really strong player. Obviously, physically, he did a kick-ass job in that challenge. Honestly, if the poll hadn't snapped, I still have no idea who would have won because they were both holding out pretty well against all that weight. Um, and then his team managed to win the next third. I managed to actually win the challenge. Sorry, and then following that, he knows that he's kind of being manipulated, and so because of that, I'm going to raise him 1 point from a 6 to a 7. My number one boy.
See, I had him at a 6, and I agree with Jada. And I'm gonna add him to a 7 for the reason that I don't think there's anyone on Oak Core that's targeting Colby, and I think everybody on Oak Core should be looking at Colby as a threat, and they're not. Jerry is trying to work with him, even if she does plan on cutting him. It's not soon. Keith came to him with this information about trying to flip the vote, so he trusts. And Tina and him seem to have a little bit of a connection. And Marilyn liked Colby; she called him the cowboy. And I think Mitchell and Colby, he went to Mitchell with that information, and Mitchell's name was out there. So, I'm thinking anybody's coming at Colby for a while, and that's a really good spot to be in heading into these next few rounds. All right, next, Keith for Chris. You had Keith at a 6 last time. Where are we going?
I mean, Keith, your cooking skills have got to step up. I mean, I know your ingredients aren't great, but if you're a real chef, you can make good food with them anyways. But he really has to start mattering in his tribe, or he's gonna get cut because Jerry does not like him. They fight all the time. He tried to swing a vote against Mitchell, so Mitchell's gonna come right back after him. I mean, it all points to Keith going home if Ogakor goes to council. It's Keith or Jerry next week, and I don't know who's going to go home, but I think Keith might be a little more safe than Jerry is because of Jerry's big name drop, and for that, I'm going to drop Keith down to a 3.
3 for Keith. Jada, you had Keith at a 4 last time. And where are you going from here?
Keith, I'm going to keep him at a 4. I don't think his game is that good. He's done a couple things that are good, but for the most part, the impact that he's having on his tribe is negative, I think. So I'm going to keep him where he is.
I'm going to go from a 4 to a 3. For the reason that he has the Jerry feud, which is not painted him a good image. He has the being bad at cooking, even though he's a cook thing, which is bad for his image. And he was the only other person besides Marilyn, who's now gone, that voted out Mitchell. That is not good for his image. So he's in a bad spot, and it's going to take a lot of work if he's going to be able to pull himself out of it, which I don't think he has the ability. He has the mind. He can think it, but he has bad execution, and execution is everything in games like these. So I'm gonna give him a 3. I don't think he's out of it yet. I don't think he's guaranteed a loss yet, but it's gonna be a long uphill battle. Next takes us to Mitchell. Mitchell, Chris, you had it a 6 last time. Where are we going from here?
Yeah, I think Mitchell is a great player. He's kind of lying low while still being in the mix. And I feel like he almost has his whole role in this tribe down to a science almost. I mean, he's the big kind of goofy guy, and he's kind of fitting in there, and he just has to dig in and really cement his friendship with Colby because Colby is a strong competitor. And if Colby rides Jerry's coattails and Mitchell rides Colby's coattails, where does Mitchell end up? Probably in the finals. But I mean, he's got to play a game and he really needs to come out of his shell and kind of play his game other than everyone else's, while still adding more people to his sub alliances so he can play it from every different way. And I think I'm going to drop him down to a 6 and hope his game gets a little more diverse.
All right, so staying at a 6. Jada, you had Mitchell at a 4. Where are we going from here?
I agree with a lot of what Chris said. I still don't think Mitchell's making a big impact on me. I think he's doing a little bit better than before, so I'm going to go ahead and raise him up to a 5, but he's still just kind of like meh for me, you know?
I had Mitchell at a 5, and I'm going to keep him at a 5. He does have the alliance with Jerry, and she always names him first when she talks about the alliance. So I think that does mean something, because I think it's the first person that comes to her mind with who she can pull in.
Mm.
But as we know with Jerry, she'll cut anybody, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
But that can't be his only connection. He needs to work on that relationship with Colby. Maybe try to pull Tina in. Something. He's got to do something besides being this goofy, really tall guy. He needs to add a layer to be considered a better player for me. All right, Chris, we're gonna be talking about Amber, who had like 3, maybe 4 confessionals in this episode. It's crazy how much we actually got a little bit of Amber. You had her at a 3 last time. Where are we going?
Yeah, I feel like we did see Amber a little bit more, and she might be getting a role in this tribe. She's kind of just smoothing in with an alliance and hoping it works. And it's kind of a good game, but after everyone else that's not in the alliance gets cut, where do you think that's going to leave you? So she has to fight and get to the top of this alliance, but for now, she's not doing it, so I'm going to give her a 4.
A 4, so she bumps up a point. Jada, you had Amber at a 4. Where are you going from here?
Yeah, I'm going to keep her the same. Like we said, you know, she's made a little bit more of an appearance this week, this episode, but not enough, not significant enough for me to really think more about her or change my thoughts on her. So I'm going to keep her the same.
Well, it's funny. I had her at a 5, and I'm going to keep her at a 5 because we saw like 3 times more Amber than we've seen before, and I still know nothing about Amber or her game, which is almost insane to think about. I've now seen her, I've heard from her, and I still know nothing. So, a 5 to me is like a start, like where you start on day 1, and Amber's still there. She's still on day 1. So, 5, she stays. Next, we're going to be talking about Alicia. Chris, you gave her a 5 last time. Where are we going?
Yeah, I feel Alicia is starting to play some of the people more, and she started it with going straight to Vrabel and telling him that Deb was trying to get him voted out, and it really did cement kind of a trust there, because they start to think, well, I know I can't trust anybody else, but at least this person, they came to me with information that I would have wanted. So now they have a kind of strategic sub-alliance in their tribe. And if they keep this going, I mean, they have really great minds, and I'm hearing some really good strategies from both of them. So if they stick together as a dynamic duo, I think they could go very far in this game, because they are both physical and mental competitors at the same time. And that's really what you need in this type of game. So I'm going to give Alicia a 6.
6. Jada, last time you had her at a 6, which was last. You were going to give her a 5, and you're like, no, I'm going to give her a 6. Where are we going from here?
I think I'm going to keep Alicia where I had her again, because she's definitely made stronger appearance this time, and I think she's doing better, and she's obviously talking about alliance and stuff. But I always like forget about her, and I think the fact that I'm forgetting about her is I'm just gonna trust my gut on that.
I had her at a 5, and I'm going to bump her up to a 7 because I think this thing with Varner that she's doing, it's well thought out, it's smart, and I think those two can potentially dominate the Kucha part of it. And at the merge, I think they could even dominate the merge if they play their cards correctly. So there's potential, and 7, she has a chance to really, if she's put in a position, her and Varner will steamroll the game. Next, we're gonna be talking about Elizabeth. Chris, you had her at a 5 last time. Where are we going?
Yeah, I didn't see any more of Elizabeth than I think I've seen. She had a great moment with Roger, but I mean, you got to do a little bit more than just be friends with the old guy, sweetie. Staying the same, give her a 5.
Jada, you had her at a 5. Where are we going?
Yeah, I'm gonna keep her. Again, we don't really see much of her game, and honestly, if she didn't have that sweet moment with Roger, and I didn't see that she was at least making some kind of connection, I would probably drop her to a 4. Just because I can see that she's at least making connections, I'm still gonna keep her at a 5.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with the 5. I was a 5, and I'm staying a 5. She she almost hindered her game because she would have been part of the Varner Alicia alliance had she not been like, no, I'm not voting out Roger. Don't you talk about Roger. But I understand. I understand
Yeah.
her being like that because of the actual personal connection that she has with Roger. So I respect it, but she's still in a neutral part, and she could find herself in danger. She's a low 5. She's a very low 5 for me. Next we're gonna be talking about Kimmy. Chris, you gave her a 4 last time. Where are we going there?
Yeah, Kimmy is still annoying, but at least a few less tribe members are throwing her name into the fire here. You're not seeing a lot of, oh, we got to get Kimmy out now. Kimmy is the target. You're hearing a lot of, what about Nick? Or maybe we can't trust Elizabeth because she's friends with Roger. Or maybe Roger because he's the old guy. But I think she could be on the outs, but she's not the first target. So I'm going to give her a 3.
3. Okay. Jada, you had Kimmy at a 3. Where are you going?
Yeah, I'm gonna keep her the same. She's I don't know, you can see that she's kind of putting more effort into the thing, but I still don't trust her, and I still don't think people on her tribe like her or trust her that much either. So I'm gonna keep her where she's at.
I gave her a 3 last time, and I'm going to go against the grain a little bit. I'm going to drop her down to a 2
Mm.
because, yeah, she's kind of playable at this point. People are going to keep her as they feel like it. But I feel like as far as like chances to win Survivor, she's dead in the water almost at this point. Like, unless she can get to the merge and like Okafor can steamroll it and take her, that's the only way she gets far in this game. Like, she's done. Like, she's tried and it still hasn't worked. I hate to say it at episode 3, but her game is done. So yeah, she's gonna be a 2. Next year we talk about Nick. Chris, you had Nick at a 6 last time. Where are we going?
Yeah, Nick is not doing anything but making crappy furniture. His name is getting put in the crosshairs. And for God's sakes, dude, you have a brain. Freaking use it. Like, I'm dying here. My number 1 pick, first overall pick in our draft, is not using his Harvard Law School brain to win Survivor right now. He's making furniture. I don't know what a law degree has to do with building furniture, but maybe you should just leave that to the carpenter. Nick, get a game and make it yours, not Roger's. I'm dropping him down to a 4, and my guy's got to get it together.
And that's a stern 4 from Chris. Jada, last time you had Nick at a 4. Where are you going for?
Nick, I'm going to drop him down to a 2 because I don't think is doing anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's just not doing anything. And not doing anything isn't going to get you anywhere. So I'm going to drop him down.
I had Nick at a 4, and I'm going to drop him down to a 3 because he's only hurt himself this episode as far as like being lazy, whereas like the last couple episodes we just didn't see him. And like he's the kind of guy, if he tries, I think he could do well. But I don't even know if he's actually trying to win Survivor. I think he's just there to hang out in the woods. So I got to give Nick a 3. He's not doing as bad as Kimmy. But if Kimmy gets voted out, I don't have a lot of hope for Nick if he does not change his gameplay. Next, we're going to be talking about Roger. Chris, you had him at a 5 last time. Where are we going?
Yeah, I think Roger is really kind of just the beautiful moment guy right now, and that's all he's done so far. Nobody's listening to him with his carpenter background. He has a lot of experience, and people don't even take his views into account. And he really has to get a spot in this tribe. I mean, you're the old guy. You have to fit in. If you don't fit in, you're gone. And he has a great relationship with Elizabeth now, but you need more than one person to survive the game. And for that, I'm going to drop him down to a 4 and hope he gets better because I love him.
Jada, you had Roger at a 6 or a 6. Where do you fall this run?
I'm going to drop Roger down a little bit just because, we've had some sweet moments out of him and I enjoy him, but I don't know if he's really a great player. He's obviously caused some problems. He doesn't do great in the competitions just because he is older. So I think I'm going to have to drop him down to a 4.
Yeah, I had Roger at a 6, and I'm going to drop him down to a 5. I want to drop it down to a 5, though, because I think Nick and Kimmy are going to be targeted before him. Elizabeth has gone so far as to put her own game at risk by trying to save him and protect him. He has a guaranteed ride or die ally. If he could just be a little better at challenges, I think Roger will be a main player in this game. So with that, that's a 5. We got 2 left. We're gonna be talking about Scoopin'. Chris, you had Scoopin' at a 6 last time. Where are we going?
Yeah, Scoopin is struggling to get to this leader aspect that he wants and doesn't want. Scoopin, you gotta pick a side. Be you, buddy. Stop trying to chase your own tail. If he just sat back and really, I mean, just took over as the leader, he could have this in the bag. And he's just coming so close every time and shooting himself in the foot. And I mean, I hope he runs out of ammo because he could be a really dangerous player if he did. But I'm going to give him a 5.
Okay, Jada, you had Scoopin' a 6 as well. Where are you going?
I'm going to do the same thing as Chris, and for all the same reasons. I'm going to take him down to a 5. Yeah, thank you. Because I think he could be playing a good game. He has the potential, but he is just not playing as good as a game as he could be. So it's got to take that into account.
I had Scoopin' at a 7 last time. Was the highest. Yeah, he definitely, with the hunting thing, he's putting himself in the hot seat. But there are so many other Kucha targets. Like, Kucha's a tribe full of targets. So I'm going to drop him down to a 6, but a high 6, because I think he's still in a pretty good position, especially after his showing with that water challenge. They're not going to want to get rid of a guy who's that strong.
That's a good point.
So, last one to talk about is the person I think we all were the highest on of anybody else last time. Yeah, I think this is the highest score for everybody. Is a Varner. Chris, you had Varner at a 9 last round. Where are we going from here?
Yeah, I think I might have really nailed this thing on the head last week, and Varner hasn't done anything to hurt himself, and no one besides the first elimination from Kucha has even talked about Varner being eliminated. And there's, like Ben said, there are so many targets in Kucha, and now Varner has this sub alliance with Alicia, another very strong competitor. And if you listen and hear what Varner has to say about every person he wants to eliminate, there are specific reasons and like really some deep strategy behind every pick that he's making. And I think Varner is really playing this game right now. And if he keeps playing it, he's got this thing. As long as this merge doesn't screw him up. But I mean, Varner, I'm keeping it at a 9. He's got this.
Jada, you had Varner at a 7. You were the lowest on last time. Where are you going from here?
I think I'm going to keep him there because you know what? He, just like Chris said, he is a really strong player. He is thinking about the strategy. But on the other hand, I really think that, and I think he'll make it to the merger, but I think when we get to the merger is when it's going to go wrong for him. Because when you think about it, and I have been, is that he was doing that gagging thing to Tina, which on one hand is good strategy because it got his tribe to win, but on the other hand, it's going to make that other tribe not like him. So when they merge, they're already going to go in thinking, man, Jeff is ruthless and he's an asshole and we don't like him. We have to get him out. And so I'm going to keep him at a 7 because I think he's a good player and I think he could go far, but I think that the merger is going to cause problems.
Yeah, I had him at an 8 last time, and I'm going to keep him at an 8 because, like Chris said and I said, there are so many targets on Kucha. So statistically, like they're going to get rid of like the Kimmies, the Scoopins, the Nick. Like that's 3 people out of 7. That would leave him, Alicia, Elizabeth, and Roger. Which that's they got a 50-50 shot there of continuing forward if that were to even happen. Yeah, I think he could run into trouble with the Ogakor people who might not like him for some of his tactics that he's used on his tribe. But Varner's a good talker. I think he can get himself out of the situation if need be. So, got to keep him at an 8. I think he's got the best chance of anybody else right now, but that could obviously change. All right, so stay tuned. Next time we'll be covering episodes 4 and 5 next time on the podcast. All right, Strategic Gaming. Thank you guys for tuning